Welcome to the second edition of the annual seminar of extended realities for learning in higher education organized by Universidad del Desarrollo, an institution committed to high standards of excellence and engaged with the digital transformation of the educational sector through experiences that involve the use of emerging technologies such as extended reality and the metaverse in learning processes. In this opportunity, we will have the valuable contribution of Directora Muhsinah Morris, who is the Metaversity Director of Morehouse College in the USA and founder and CEO of Metaverse United. The title of her presentation is Defining and Optimizing Your Institutional Metaverse Culture. The last part of this presentation, there will be time to answer questions to Dr. Morris. You can send them in the chat box located at the right of your screens, clicking the Q&A link. At that point, I will show up again together with Dr. Morris. Without further ado, I give the floor to Dr. Muhsinah Morris. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose. It's an honor to be here. And I'm going to go ahead and start the presentation so that we can have plenty of time for questions. Hello, everyone. I am Dr. Muhsinah Morris, and I am going to speak to you today about defining and optimizing your institutional metaverse culture. I know that is a lot of jargon, a lot of words, but I'm going to break down to you how you can make metaversity life really work for you. I am Muhsinah Morris, and I am in the Division of Professional and Continuing Studies in the Education Department at Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia. So these are pictures of my inspiration, and I always start here because in order to know how I became who I am and why I am pushing so hard for metaverse of learning, you have to know my background. Who you see on this slide is my older brother who at the age of 4 contracted meningitis, and his name is Gordy. And this is my mother, and she is my champion and my very good supporter. And so I want to talk about my family, but my mother saw fit to name me Muhsinah, and Muhsinah means beneficent, charitable, and good doer, and kind. And I think that I am all of these things, but it took a bit of inspiration to get me to where I am now because I am a young girl from very humble beginnings. My parents did not have a college education. I am one of 4 children, and so I didn't have a lot growing up. But what my mother and my father saw in me was the ability to change the world, and they started by giving me a name that resonated. And so I want to show you this quick clip. This tells my story. As a child, I had these big, grandiose ideas of being someone that was going to change people's lives. My oldest brother had meningitis at the age of 4, and it left him brain damage. It was difficult being a sibling to a special needs child. So my imaginative play was always, how can I find a cure for my brother? That led me down a pathway through science, and I discovered chemistry. As a biomolecular chemist and metaversity director at Morehouse College, I am really an integrative chemist. That means that I will use any type of instrument, software, technology to solve a problem. When the MetaQuest 2 came out, we had an opportunity to demo a synchronous learning campus, and that totally transformed the way that we teach. We have a digital twin of our chemistry lab, which is really cool because they can start the experiment in virtual reality and just walk through all of the steps that it would take to be effective in the lab. You learn how to grab the spheres. They could hold a molecule in their hand, or they could make it as large as the room and walk the bond. And so bringing that molecular world to life redefined how students actually accepted the information because they could visualize it. Norman, I'm about to join you. No longer can you go back to just sitting in a lecture hall and disseminating information to students. Students want an opportunity to engage with the material. High five me. You felt that? Yeah. Isn't that cool? Right? Virtual reality really lowers the barriers to getting the type of education that you deserve but may not have access to, and completely change the education game. That's cool. And so I wanted to show you all that because those are the origins for why I am here today and why I have called this opportunity opportunistic reality. Opportunistic reality for me has been what this project is truly about. It's about creating opportunities in a space where we're not always often represented. And we, as people of color, as a historically Black college and university who educates young men to lead lives of leadership and service at Morehouse College, we often get to see the genius that is surrounding us, but the world doesn't often. And what this project has done is opened up the floodgates to let the world see the type of young men that we are creating to build the future of what this world looks like. And so here are some acronyms that I may use throughout the presentation. I'm sure some of you have heard them, but I want to be clear that extended reality, I will say XR technologies, augmented reality is an extended reality technology in which you can augment the real world. So you'll see an overlay of a simulation or of something that is perhaps on your mobile device where you can actually see something that is in the real world, but it is just an overlay. So augmented reality is one of the most accessible extended reality technologies that we use. If you've ever used any filter on Snapchat, then you've definitely used some type of augmented reality. Virtual reality is what we use at Morehouse College. That means that we use the head-mounted display. Everyone at our institution is loaned out a MetaQuest 2 headset for the semester in which they're going to take their classes, and they turn them in at the end. But while they have them, they're able to engage in not just academic courses, but also learning experiences. And then when I talk about the metaverse, a lot of people are really confused because they associate the metaverse with just meta. But the metaverse is a term that was coined back in 1992 with Stephen Nielsen's Snow Crash book. And he talks about this virtual world where you can work and play. Now, it is set in a dystopian society, but I would say this does not have to exist in a dystopian society. So when you think about the metaverse, truly think about embodying the internet. Like if you had an opportunity to experience the internet. And then metaversities, which I teach on, and so do my colleagues, is just merging that metaverse with a university or a college, so an institution of higher learning. And so Steve Grubbs, who is my educational partner, the CEO of Victory XR, coined that term metaversity to describe the work that we were doing. And my term, opportunistic reality, is the culmination of what XR technologies can do when combined with education. And it is a way to chart your pathway to success in this $1.5 trillion industry that comprises the metaverse and also Web3. So this is just my resume on a slide. And I always just present this because sometimes I forget to actually introduce myself. So I stand here as one, but really as many. And so as I am the spokesperson and director of Morehouse in the Metaverse, and I have taught several classes, not just in chemistry, but also in education using our immersive virtual reality, I do know several things. Um, Bringing the molecular world to life for our students was a game changer for them. That my degrees in chemistry did not go for nothing. That being able to make this level of higher education accessible for all students is very important as we begin to align with these new technologies across all industries. So currently, I serve as the assistant professor in the education department, but I was previously, when I started working on this project, the department chair in chemistry at Morehouse College. I am now the Metaversity Director, and I'm also the PI of my own research group, the Morris Research and Innovation Lab, where we focus on inclusiveness in STEM for those who have autism. And I started my work aligning in technology, 3D printing specialized lab equipment for those who have autism. So I am a mother of 5 sons and a wife of a man who is wonderful and puts up with me and all of my antics, but also who is a technologist, and he works as a network design engineer. And he and I grew our family and ourselves together, and merged our hobby along with our careers. And so what you see is a culmination of that work. So I have 5 sons, one of which who has autism spectrum disorder, and I really believe that we have to make all things more inclusive. And he has a knack for technology, and so I wanted to make sure that I am catering also to the neurodiverse population of people in the world. I am the Vulcan Teaching in Excellence awardee, so I won the Professor of the Year award at Morehouse in 2021. I just won the STEMinist Woman of the Year, Educator of the Year award for STEM Women Atlanta. We have won innovation, unconventional innovation in industry for our Metaversity program by T-Mobile this year. We've also won the HBCU Emerging Technologies Award. And so we are an award winning program with award winning scholars. And one of the other things that I am is a CEO and founder of my own metaverse company, Metaverse United. You can find us at unitethemetaverse.com. I'm also the CFO of our family company, HYI Productions. So one of our videos that you'll see, our trailers, was produced by my family's company, HYI Productions. And so I really dabble in this space to make sure that we are building 21st century skills in virtual reality, not just for STEM education, but in all different disciplines as well. And that's very important. So my whole goal in coming to speak to you today is really to ask you to join us in building the metaverse table. I am an educator that is committed to building the spaces students are comfortable with inhabiting, especially our underrepresented students that are in technology. Our future leaders deserve access. So I'm asking you to help me rewrite this narrative for our young Black men at Morehouse College and XR, but also for your students across Latin America. I want everyone to understand that we have genius, we have presence, we have pride in our communities, and that our spaces should reflect our experiences. So, what do I think about education in the metaverse, honestly? When I think about why it is so important and why I am pushing this initiative so hard, I start to think about where we are in terms of generations. Our baby boomers that made up a large group of people in our society overall, was one of the largest generations. And they were very hard workers. And they were facilitators of innovation and saw us into areas and were the hardest working workforce. Now they are exiting the workforce, and it is up to us as Generation X, millennials, and even Zoomers, Generation Z, to create and innovate and facilitate new ways of learning and engaging with our youngest students, which is Generation Alpha. They will really be the early adopters and users of this, but we will be the ones to build it and to make sure that it gets down into our K 12 educational systems, and that we have tested it and made sure that we have a blueprint that they can truly follow. What is very important for me also is when I look at how technology and innovation happens, Everett Rogers talks about this diffusion of innovation, and you see innovation really stall. So you'll have those innovators and you have those early adopters, and then you'll have this chasm that happens. And it's not until a whole lot of people really start to adapt and adopt the technology that you start to see movement in any field or any area. And what I don't want for our young students is for them to be the laggards. I don't want them to be the late majority either. I really want them to be the early adopters in this thing. And so I am willing to bump my head up against the wall and innovate in this space to make sure that I am making room and future proofing our next generation. Because truly, to make this what it is supposed to be and how great it should be and reflective of what our world is, it's going to take all of us. And so it's really, for me, a human issue. It is an issue that spans generations. It's an issue that really spans the test of time. And so we have to be able to really work together across global uh, geographical divides and really understand that we need each other and we have to work together. So, how did we get here? Morehouse College entered the metaverse in the spring of 2021. So, we started ideating with Victory XR in 2020 about their innovation. So, I work as a science research coordinator for our federal program TRIO, where we help first generation college students um, enter into our space and have a residential experience. Well, everyone knows that we lived through a pandemic and we're still living through that. And our nation and global everything was shut down. So we were trying to find ways to engage those students, and we stumbled upon Victory XR, who already had built out this asynchronous virtual reality world tethered to the next generation science standards. And so we also thought about that as a way to engage our students, but I really wanted them to have a fuller experience, and I wanted to be able to experience it with them, to know that they were really getting the true understanding of the content with a subject matter expert. And Victory XR provided the platform at the time to be able to do this. They were already way ahead of the game. And so I partnered with them, and we at Morehouse have partnered with them to build a digital twin replica of Morehouse's campus so students can enter the virtual reality world and experience their college as it is. And that was magic to our students. The first three classes that we taught on this digital twin campus were Biology 105, which focuses on men's health, and History 112, which is our world history course, and then Advanced Inorganic Chemistry. So it was three professors who taught those courses, and then an additional professor, Dr. Tanya Clark, in English, who trained with us and did cross-disciplinary lessons in biology and chemistry with us to look at culturally responsive literature and talk about ethics. So it was really interesting how we all four of us, which I call the ultimate team, when we first got started, really put this metaversity concept to the test. And so I'm going to show you our trailer. And this was as of the fall of 2021. So we've expanded so much since then. We've tripled our courses, but I want to show you what metaversive learning looked like for us then. So that is where we came from. And we have our wonderful partners in Victory XR. And you'll hear from Steve Grubbs at the end, at the closing of this this conference. But he really is revolutionary in his thinking about the future of education and has really stood by us as the first institution to adopt this technology and helped us really understand the power and the utility. And we have taken it and run. So, like I said, we have taught 15 virtual reality courses across all disciplines now. We started off in those three, and it has gone from journalism, multimedia, and storytelling. We have done history. We're teaching a Black history course next semester. We've done entrepreneurial mindset in business. We have had our students pitch to VCs across the world in the metaverse setting about their own technology. But we have done such great things, and we're still in our sciences. So we're still in biology and still innovating in microbiology and upper areas of science. So it can be done in your STEM courses. It can be done in courses that align with healthcare management, but also in your humanities and in business. The most amazing thing about the work that we did was the student achievement. I was blown away by how our student achievement just increased by using virtual reality as the classroom. Now, one thing that I want to tell you is that we chose not to say, okay, we're going to use this virtual reality uh, as an accessory. It wasn't something that we did that was kind of like a fad. This was something that we did totally. When students locked into their headsets, they were in class. So it was like when they showed up as their avatar presence, they showed up in class. And what we saw was that students in virtual reality perform 11.9% better than they do in face to face and online courses. So our students basically had very flat uh, levels of understanding in face to face and in online settings. And then when we implemented virtual reality, we started to see a 10 percentage point increase in student attendance as well, which was remarkable because the one thing that we needed to show was that this proof of concept really worked for helping increase engagement, student satisfaction, as well as student success. And it did. We've also done student experiences. So it's more than just a program where we do academic courses. It's a program where we have celebrated our commencement in the metaverse. We have celebrated our largest fundraiser for our Founders Week, our Candle in the Dark Gala, and we have been able to uh, dance the night away and party with our students also in the metaverse. So another thing that we really wanted to focus on for our student body, especially as we were going through COVID and not able to gather, was to create a sense of community. And we did that through our Meditation Mondays. So students were not in academic courses in virtual reality. These were students that were just wanting to have build a mindfulness practice, wanted to build community, and they were given a headset to meet every Monday and practice mindfulness. And so students were able to meditate in space. And so these are the pictures that you see. But the good thing was that they also journaled through their experience on a shared journal. And we walked through their thoughts and hopes and dreams, and were able to give them a safe space to be able to talk, but also together at a time when we couldn't gather much. And so students state that they hoped to gain like insight and knowledge and peace. And that was obtained because afterwards they felt relaxed. They felt this sense of oneness. We also have done some outreach. So we have a lab project, a lab school project, and we had a cohort of research fellows from the Morehouse Center for Excellence in Education, which I'm affiliate, well, started off as affiliate faculty, but now I am full-time faculty in. And what we did at this school called Utopian Academy for the Arts with one of our adjunct professors and Morehouse alum, Dr. Artesius Miller, was we focused on educators' well-being and mental health. So, in order for this to get adopted, I think in the K-12 space, we have to also think about the approach of how can we get our educators to adopt this technology, to understand it, to be comfortable in it. And so we designed this project where our educators were using the Trip virtual reality application and other mindfulness practices in order to see how that correlated with student achievement. It was really important for us to not do the top down approach where we just focus on administrative things and not the bottom up approach where we just look at the students and deliver different types of pedagogical information. But we wanted to really focus on our educators because a lot of times the presence of the educator is not thought through. And they do a lot of professional development, but they don't focus on the person behind the person that is sitting in the room with these students day in and day out at a time when our educational system was really stressed. So that was a really wonderful program that has continued. And now Dr. Miller and the Utopian Academy for the Arts is implementing this and has I've helped them write grants in order to get funding and their own set of headsets to actually now start implementing the curriculum in science for their students in virtual reality. But it started with focusing on and getting the educators really sold on this can be useful, not just for my students, but also for me, and to use it as an intervention for disciplinary efforts in the K-12 system too. So our real goal is to mold disciplined minds with intention. The future is really so bright, and the mindfulness approach and the way that we see our students through metacognitive strategies is really helpful. So we're continuing with our multimedia and storytelling, and we have a wonderful professor, Mickey Harris, who is an award-winning journalist and has been published in the National Geographic, who has done this social justice documentary in virtual reality. And so she actually shoots in 360-degree VR and trains our students on that. We have our students also learning how to create culturally appropriate avatars and looking at the creation of culturally appropriate avatars in terms of presence with Dr. Monique Earl Lewis in Africana Studies and representation. We're creating culturally responsive spaces. So our students are learning how to use the Unity platform to create these three-dimensional worlds and these virtual worlds that are culturally responsive and are spaces that they actually want to inhabit. And for me, to make sure that we still focus on mental health and well-being and outreach in our community. So we're continuing our outreach program with Utopian Academy and other school systems in Georgia and around the world. And I am training other professors now on how they are supposed to actually roll this out. So when I'm talking to my clients and when I'm talking to other professor colleagues, I'm helping them actually break down their face-to-face instructional lessons into this particular environment. How do we make what you're trying to get your students to learn very transformational? How do we access this transformational learning environment so that our students can truly be engaged? And that's what this is all about. And for our students in that opportunistic reality, I think about generational wealth creation and focusing on what the metaverse economy will bring entrepreneurship, NFTs, and digital assets, but also intellectual property, knowing how to protect their own and knowing how to understand how rules and things are being made and laws and practices. So, right now is really a good time to get in so that you can start to build the type of culture that you want to see reflected, or else someone else is going to tell you what is a best practice. And I think that that narrative is just a monolith, that we have got to tell the story that we have our own way of delivering instruction to our young people that is engaging and that really creates this way of thinking that started from birth really as human beings. We are all curious and discoverers and want to be engaged with our natural world. And even though this is in a digitally simulated world, the things that you can create in this world, you can also emulate and create in the real world. So it does not have to exist because the real world is dysfunctional. And it doesn't have to be something that people just sit in. And we do not gamify education. We make education accessible through engagement and transformational learning. That is what we're doing with this opportunistic reality, with this metaversive learning. That is what this is, because it helps our students develop agency. And human agency is defined as an individual's capacity to determine and make meaning from their environment through purposive consciousness and reflective and creative action. And that I wish I had said, but I didn't. And Houston said it in 2010 in their reflections on the discourse of child protection. But what it talks about is the examination of power in social life. And agency is what we're all trying to achieve in our own lives, but definitely with the future of our world. So back to opportunistic reality. Why is it so important? Because now this $1.5 trillion industry is being projected as being a $33 trillion industry by 2030, because the United Nations has sustainable development goals that align to everything that we're doing in this particular world, because we need to provide quality education that is geographically agnostic and able to reach people in every corner of the earth. And it does not matter where you were born, you should have access to the best learning possible. Engaging learning and learning that can take place right in your living room if need be, or all together in your classroom. So I'm going to allow you time to ask me plenty of questions, and I hope that I have answered some of them already. But I thank you for your time and attention. And I want to shout out my ultimate team, and we've grown. So some of my faculty members aren't even on here on this particular slide, but these are our VR pioneers who are charging full steam ahead to make sure that this is a blueprint that you can follow. So I would like to say thank you to all of my Metaversity professors who have worked so hard and tirelessly with me on bringing this to fruition. And I would like to also thank our Metaversity scholars. I thank Jose for bringing me here. I cannot thank you enough. Our very purposeful partnership with Victory XR, we could not do it without them. I always call them our secret sauce. And our CEO, Steve Grubbs, for allowing us to tell this narrative to the entire world and giving us a space to be seen and heard. Southern Company, Qualcomm, Unity Technologies, and Meta for their wonderful partnerships, and T-Mobile, Trip VR, our Meta Team professionals who have joined the fight with us, and giving credit to our production team, HYI Productions, our president, Dr. David Thomas, and Dr. Kendrick Brown, our provost at Morehouse College, and Metaverse United, where we help you find where you belong in the embodiment of the internet called the metaverse. So taking people from the womb to the tomb, that means from the smallest of small to the oldest of old, and making sure that they are represented and seen and find their niche in this space that we call the metaverse. And you can find me if you're interested in becoming a collaborator, or if you want me to work on a project with you, at unitethemetaverse.com, or you can email me at muhsinah.morris@morehouse.edu. We are looking for hands to build with us, and we are proud to build globally with you. So thank you for having me. Please know that you are seen today, you are heard, and I am happy to answer your questions. Thank you for having me. It's been an honor. To build the metaverse table with you will be my honor.
Wow, Muhsinah, this has been a quiet journey. Thank you for sharing all those experiences, because all of them look like a dream. Okay, because we know that education historically have been a lot of work to make changes. And definitely, you're doing a great and hard work changing the education from a learning perspective and using technology. Okay, the real birth of education using technology. Uh,
Absolutely.
we, we have a lot of questions.
I see. I love it.
Yeah, and it's very interesting because we have a lot of perspective behind these questions. The first one, okay, is Metaverse changing universities considering the students could actually not go physically to class?
Absolutely, Claudia. Absolutely. So originally, when we started, we were fully remote. That means that students were in their own living rooms at their own homes. And Victory XR helped us with the logistics of shipping headsets all over the country because we have some students that are actually out of the country as well to make sure that they could access it. We did all of our training via, just team building platforms like Zoom or Teams or whatever. But after that, our students locked into their classes from their living rooms or their dorm rooms or wherever they were in the world, honestly. And now that we're back in person, so we are fully 100% a residential institution. And at this time, our students bring their headsets to class. So we bring their headsets to class, and the experience is equally as engaging because now, if I want to take them to the Great Wall of China to experience, if I want to take them to the foot of the pyramids, I can do that. If I want to take them to those slave ships and start to talk about what it was like to go through the transatlantic slave trade, and they can actually be on that boat. If I want to take them back in time to World War II battles, I can
Okay.
do that on the battleship, and they can be in the experience. So no longer are they experiencing things from reading it in a book. They're actually there in the battle.
Wow. Okay, we have the second question. Um, is about one of your research. The question says, I saw one of your research is about metacognition.
Yeah.
Could extended reality help on building self-awareness to increase learning achievement?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. That is a beautiful question. Honestly, so many people miss that I actually do do some metacognitive strategies with my students. But one of the biggest things that I think that this does is allow your students to see themselves embodied in their discipline. So a lot of times for students, especially in STEM, they don't see themselves as a chemist. They don't really see themselves in these upper echelons of their fields, but they will be, right? But they have to envision it and see it. And so being able to see yourself as an astronaut without space training and be in there and you can see your own face. So in the platform that we use, we have face enabled avatars. So students can see
Yeah.
themselves
Okay.
represented in their own disciplines and their fields. When we had students pitching to VCs and they had to dress in their business suits and their avatars and they had to present their work to people that were sitting across the country that were real business people, that were real VCs, they had to be and embody who they wanted to see. And so it helps them build a different level of understanding about who they are and what they're made of. And we've actually transformed some majors because of that. So students who didn't even think they had the aptitude for certain classes or certain disciplines have actually changed their majors because our men's health course that was taught is a general education course. And so it's a first year experience course, but it's very specific in science and discovery. And so we had students that changed their majors to biology because they were like, oh, wow, I never even thought I had the aptitude for it. And here I am achieving because I could see myself as a biologist now.
Okay. Okay. So, a third question came up.
Okay.
How do you evaluate your students' attention during a VR experience?
Very easily because they cannot actually not pay attention without you knowing.
Okay.
Students are in these immersive headsets, right? So all of the real world is shut out. I normally tell students to put on their stationary boundary and sit. Some students like to walk around depending on the experience, but for the most part, a lot of what we do happens stationary, but they are moving their hands to grab or grasp or engage with content. But one of the number one things about evaluating their attention is that if they take that headset off, it tells me that they're away. They're away, so they're away from the classroom. I do know that they can't see their phones, they can't see the web without me knowing, because I have to actually turn on that they can look at the web in their headsets. And so I have full class management control. If I want my students to be in one particular environment, even if I've broken them off in groups, I can summon them to me, which is something that you can't even do in the real classroom. Like, you can't get everyone's attention always at the same time. But in virtual reality, I press a button and they all come and they're right here with me. And I can just tell. I can tell by the motion whether or not they're engaging in the material, because everything we're doing, they're not sitting down in the desk listening to us lecture. They're actually engaging with the material. That means they're building something, they're presenting something, they're experiencing something, they're working on something, they're doing something. So it's a kinesthetic, it's an auditory, it's a visual experience for all of them.
Okay. Your answer lead us to the next question. That is, uh, can you guide us to the key elements in the process of creating a course using the metaverse? Let's say 2 or 3 recommendations that you can give us.
Start with your student learning outcomes. We are educators.
Okay,
You always start with your student learning outcomes
great.
and you map them backwards. So you think about the activities and the things that you already do. A lot of those things can be physically done in immersive virtual reality. We use the Engage platform and we work with Victory XR for several reasons. Victory XR has a software development team that will work alongside of you as a partner and build the spaces that you truly want to see, whether it's a digital replica of the space or a new space. And they have the best customer service I've ever seen in my life. And more often, they also create these worlds that are very highly realistic and aren't very cartoon like. So they're really as if you're in that type of space. And that's what I like, the hyper realism that comes with the work that they do. But so, one, start with your student learning outcomes, map the activities backwards, look at the different locations that are available. We use the Engage platform. It's a wonderful platform with several locations that are already there that might embody some of the things that you can do. There are some tutorial courses on Engage about how you can augment the spaces to bring in assets of your own. And I always say purposeful partnerships, because I know my subject matter and I'm the subject matter expert, but I had to be able to talk to the software development team and the engineers to get it done. And being able to have that very good flow and communication, and professors that really are willing and already doing innovative things. So those are the people that you want to peg for doing this. You don't want to tell or mandate that people do this. I have more interest than I actually have headsets to give out right now. So it's the people who want to do it the most that have the grit to get it done.
Okay. One of our most believers teachers, I know he's the guy because I know Rodrigo. He's asking how can you measure the attention of your students during a VR experience? We know that usually we can lose the focus of something. We can distract looking things. How can you measure that behavior of your students?
Because we're in a synchronous learning environment, literally, I am in the room with them.
Okay, that's it. Yeah.
And my avatar presence is there. So it's just as if you were in a regular classroom with your students in the same physical environment. Every avatar has a human being that is behind it. So if I go over and I tap them and they feel the haptic feedback
Yeah.
of
Okay.
the vibration of the joystick, then, and I know that they're not responding back,
Yeah.
then I know they're not paying attention to
Yeah.
me. And like I said, if they remove the headset, if they sit it down, if they sit down, if they're not moving around,
Okay.
their avatar goes into this kind of dysfunctional kind of positioning. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, they're not doing the work. And so I'm able to get them back on and their attention again by summoning everyone to me or locking them in another type of position to kind of gather them. But for the most part, it's better than putting them in a breakout room, because when in breakout room, you don't know who's working with who until you go to each individual breakout room and check on groups. But in this setting, everyone's in the same room. So I can put you as far as over there and I can teleport to you and see what your group is working on. And I'm recording it spatially. So then when I play it back, I can hear everything that you all did.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. What do you think about the social and emotional skills required for metaverse environments?
I think that's why the mindfulness practice was so important for me. It
Okay.
was because I think that students need more than just the ability to build these hard kind of skills. Skill sets are easy to come by in some ways, but it's always these other skills that are lost. They call them soft skills, but I call them essential skills, because it's that ability to communicate in your discipline. It's the ability to be creative and innovative and think outside of the box. And it really starts with them having a firm belief in themselves. So the mindfulness practice and what we did, having them actually reflect on their thoughts and their experiences, whether academic or personal, was really important for building up trust and safety. And one of my teaching philosophies is building a rapport with students before you ask them to perform. I think that we have to understand the whole child, their experiences and everything. Every child is a universal within themselves. Everyone has a purpose and they have goals, and you really have to tap into them. So I was always, even before I started using virtual reality, I would do a gamut of personality tests, Myers Briggs, and learning, you know, tests with students so they can see what types of learners they most align with, what kind of multiple intelligence they have, how they learn, so that then we can strategize a study plan for them on how to really make sure that they're not missing any gaps in chemistry, because chemistry is one of those things that if you don't show up and you're not present all the
Yeah.
time, then you don't progress. And so we always started class with a mindfulness minute, or some kind of motivation minute, because students need to be able to leave whatever it is and learn how to compartmentalize that they are now in this environment and they have to be truly focused. And so developing that as a skill set is really important, because a lot of times we don't take the time to stop and say, okay, what makes me great? What made me be able to be successful? And I know for me, it was learning how to be disciplined, consistent, and showing up, because consistency will beat talent and genius any day, because you're consistent. You do a little bit every single day. And so you train your students on how to do that, but they have to have the social emotional understanding, and that emotional intelligence and fortitude and perseverance to be able to see themselves as moving forward and see their failures as springboards to success.
Okay. How would you describe uh, the behavior of teachers with the use of metaverse? What was the reaction when the teachers faces the technology, the immersive technology?
So it was really interesting. So it was all positive. So I know I make it sound like this is all rainbows and unicorns, for us, but honestly, we only, oh, my head, hold on, my earpiece just fell out of my ear, y'all.
It's okay,
Pardon me.
no problem.
I guess I move too much when I talk. I'm sorry.
It's
Uh,
okay.
but our our teachers that we pegged for this particular project are all teachers, like I said, that are already doing very innovative things. 3 out of 4 of the teachers that started with us were professors of the year. They were already creating courses in their discipline that was something that people already looked at us sideways, that were in, who had been there for a long time. We were like the radicals, the rebels, the people who they were kind of like, okay, they want to really change and transform what we are doing in academia. And we did. And we still do. And so it's been a good experience actually when they started to see that we were really using best practices in education, that we were using like problem based learning, case based and investigative case based learning pedagogies, that we were really focused on making sure that students had strategies to understand and grasp the technology and the disciplinary work, that we weren't watering it down. And then there was this big sense of pride that came over the entire faculty And they've been rooting us full steam ahead ever since. So um, it's been a good experience, actually.
Okay. Um, I think we're almost at the end of the interview. However, I would like to ask you, um, what could be the three most important factors in implementing the metaverse in an educational institution? Let's say uh, a rector or a decision taker. What will be the three most important factors that he will consider to implement uh, a real metaverse strategy?
Leverage the ability for your academic professionals to be just that, that we are very sophisticated researchers and grant writers. So
Okay.
for us, it was all about funding. How do we get this thing funded? Once it was funded, then we were able to lay it down. So I would think about funding sources first. I would think about the layers of technology that I would need, whether I need what kind of headsets I want to implement, what kind of extended reality technology, what kind of headset will make learning work for our students. The most affordable headset out now is the MetaQuest 2, and you can do a lot of engagement. It's untethered, and um, now is very good, to be able to use. You have 2 hours worth of battery life, if not a little bit more. If students want to plug in beyond that, they can. But it's also more comfortable. You have, different accessories that make the headset more comfortable for you. So first, I would look at making sure I have the funding source. The second thing, if I was a decision maker, I would look at is making sure that I have the right type of technology for my students and that I can get enough equipment for all of my students to have a great experience. And the third thing that I would do is to make sure that I had a good partnership with a company like a Victory XR, because there are a lot of companies out there who say that they do it, but there are not a lot of companies that are doing metaversities. That means full academic courses in the metaverse, and Victory XR is the only one that do it. And Morehouse College is the only school that has done it first and did it for 4 semesters before anyone else did it. So we have a good understanding of what it takes. But if I was a decision maker, the most important thing is your team. Who are you going to say is going to take this and run with it? So I'm the Metaversity director. And who is that person that's going to run the program, that's going to recruit the people, that's going to do the logistical work, that's going to, you know, be in the trenches with this program and actually take it to where it's going to go, that is inspired by um, defining what your metaverse culture is. Like, what is it that you stand for and how do you want to be represented in the world? That's the person that you want to peg for this. And then you want to let them be the person that chooses what you all do first. I wouldn't say I'm going to make someone do this. I would choose the person who already is perhaps writing science fiction novels at home, or that they are a gamer or hobbyist, but they have this technology innovative kind of layer to them. That would be
Yeah,
my person. Yeah.
you mentioned something very important, that the metaverse culture, the word culture is a kind of adjective. So basically, if a good strategy is set up, probably the adjective will make sense. However, if you don't have a good strategy, probably it will be a very complicated path to implement uh, that kind of culture.
So
Um,
that's what I do. A lot
yeah,
of the work that I do with my clients when I'm talking to them, or other colleagues when I'm talking to them, is helping them really define what that is. And a lot of times it's an iterative process. So Morehouse in the Metaverse, as you see it now, did not start off as Morehouse in the Metaverse. It started off as the pilot virtual reality project,
okay,
right?
okay,
So it started off as just a proof of concept of these three academic courses with these four very brave professors. And it was us working together in collaboration day in and day out across disciplines that then defined what we knew Morehouse stood for, which is our mission is to develop young men who lead lives of leadership and service in our communities, disciplined minds. And so that was what we wrapped our head around in terms of our experiences and our alumni and other stakeholders in the community. What did our world need to see from us? And that is how you define your metaverse culture. Is And metaverse is so cliche, but it is the best way to really describe the totality of experiences that we are using. And there's no other term other than a transformative learning experience that I would use to describe what we do, or metaversive learning. But at the end of the day, what it really is saying is that we are looking forward and ahead towards the future. And we're not just saying that this is where we're going to stay. Our students do need theory and they do need old ways of learning material, but they need new ways of envisioning how they will receive it. And they're already in this space.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, well, thank you very much, Dr. Morris, for sharing your experience and ideas with LATAM teachers and the educational community. Definitely, this will be a lighting perspective about how emerging technologies are impacting our students today and reveal the not so future standards expected for our learners and their learning processes. So thank you very much for being here, for being part of this. We hope that we have the chance to do more events like this and invite you to participate.
And I would always say yes to you, Jose. You have been a wonderful host. The entire team has been so wonderful to me throughout this entire experience. I thank you so much. I thank everyone for their questions. And I see a question in there. Someone asked, what's the next step
Yeah.
in the metaverse? So I would say, thinking about ways that we can make our headsets lighter, that we can lower the price point of the hardware. So that is still something that needs to happen, that we can get everyone connected in the world. So in developing countries where, they don't really have good connection, force these technology companies to go and make sure that the least of us are also coming up with us, because we're going to need this. Is a human issue. And so our next steps is really thinking about ways in which we can make these headsets, like I said, lighter but more powerful. And as a chemist, I'm always thinking on a molecular level. So, what new material sciences, nanotechnology are we going to be using? Thinking about quantum computing and Web3, thinking about the digital economy, and making sure that our students are well versed with all of these new terms and buzzwords that are happening, and that they don't get left behind. So that's what's next for the metaverse.
Great, great.
It has to happen in education. It has to happen in education. The only way that it's going to take off and be truly adopted
Yeah,
is through education.
yeah. Well, again, thank you very much. Thank you very much. We will talking later in the future, certainly. Okay.
Thank you all. Bless
Well,
you all. Happy holidays.
yeah.
Happy
Happy.
holidays.
Thank
Enjoy
you.
your time with family and friends,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
happy new year to you all.